How are you? This is Oliver Fernandez with The Imperfect Entrepreneur. And over the last couple of months, my daughter's been coming home and sharing these like really cool sayings. And one of the sayings that she says is, sharing is caring. And today I want to share with you some of the wisdom and understanding that I've gotten over the last 10 years of how to become the best leader possible. And that is not always talking about the goals and the targets and the opportunities that we're going after, right? Sometimes it's holding the team accountable to what their greatness level can be and should be. And I'm excited to dive into that with you today. So one of my mentors always talks about like these 4 personas, right? And persona number 1 is like the doer, right? And you need to have doers in your organization or nothing's ever going to get done, right? So you got to have the doer. Then you have the thinker, right? You got to have good thinking in the organization, right? Because we want the doing to be done based off of good thinking. So you need to have someone who has a good thought process, and the thought process in our organization has continually been refined, and now it's being documented so that we can really start applying more people to it so it can be duplicated even further, right? So you got doing, you got thinking, and then on the bottom side of the equation, you have draining and then draining, right? So let's hit draining first. And draining is like when someone's in the organization and they're literally draining the energy out of the organization. They're always talking about what's wrong. They're always not bringing their best version to the meetings. They're always bringing the negativity into the meeting. They're always doing something to disrupt the positive energy or the positive of the flow of the organization, right? So that's your drainer, right? And then you have on the bottom right, we got our watcher, right? And then that's the person that literally is watching, right? They're not necessarily draining by like saying something negative, but like they're not taking action on things, and they're constantly watching activities happen. And they might know whether things are good or bad for the organization, but they're not taking action on it. They're just sitting there watching, right? And obviously, like, you don't have to be, a Harvard grad to understand that you want more doers and thinkers versus watchers and drainers, right? And most business owners aren't watchers and drainers, right? Like a lot of times they are doers and thinkers, and honestly, that's why they are in the position they're in, right? I knew like when I first started out, like I did a lot of doing, and then I was doing and thinking based off of like my mentor's thought process, right? But I was taking a lot of the action. And then, as time's gone on, we've brought on more team members, and now they're doing a lot of the doing, and it's based off of the thought process that we've developed over the last 10 years, right? So now we're able to multiply the good doing and thinking through multiple team members, and we're able to do more, right? But the thing that we always want to think about, right, is when we're doing and thinking, right, we also want to make sure that we're not just doing based off of bad thinking, because that can also be a problem, right? Like bad thinking, all of a sudden this person's doing, and then they've created a bigger mess than what was there before. And one of my friends in the 10X community always says, everybody wants to tattoo themselves as like the firefighter, but at the end of the day, they're just putting out the fires that they created, and they might not be aware that they created those fires, but they're still putting out the fires that they created. And what he really means by that is, we hire people, we tell them to go do this job, and they do this thing, and we don't really give them the blueprint. We don't give them the step-by-step guide. We don't make it clear what the results we want from that action are. And then all of a sudden, these people take action on these things, and they create a fire. So now here we are, we're like, oh, we're the fireman, we're going to come in there and save the day. But at the end of the day, you really created that problem, because that problem was really created by you bringing on someone, not training them properly, not bringing them through the process and the integration process that needs to happen for that team member to be successful, and not be a bad thinking doer, right? Because bad thinking doers create problems in the organization. And yes, we want doing to happen, but we also want it to be done off of good thinking. So when we got doers operating in our business off of bad thinking, we have some issues, right? But the thing I wanted to really focus on today was really the watcher and the drainer, right? And I had this real new understanding of that watcher and the drainer, because I never saw myself as the watcher and the drainer. I was always the doer and the thinker, the doer and the thinker, the doer and thinker. Good doing off of good thinking, right? But if you're the owner in your business and you have people in your organization that are not following the procedures that you have, that are not being accountable to themselves or the team members, or they have big targets and they're not staying disciplined to those targets, right? And if you're the owner of the organization and you're just sitting around watching that activity happen and you're not enforcing the discipline in your organization, what you've actually become is the drainer. Woo! And it's like, here you are, you want to be the leader, you want to be the person that is inspiring your team members to take action and move forward, and you want to be this, I mean, I'm telling this to myself, like, I want to be this, I want to get my business to $100 million. But actually, I'm the one that's draining the organization of the energy to get to $100 million, because I'm watching people in the organization not execute at the levels that they are capable of executing at, and allowing it to happen, not executing based off of the discipline and that we've already instilled in the organization, which is the standard operating procedures, which is the daily reports, which is all of these things. They're not operating off that, so I'm allowing these people to come into the organization and drain the organization of its resources. And once I got that understanding, making the tough decisions in business became easier. Like, I knew it was, like, not good for me. I knew it wasn't, I knew it wasn't the best for team members, but, like, once I realized that I was the one draining the organization, and I, like, when I used to think about watchers and drainers, I hate watchers and drainers, like, how do we convert more watchers and drainers to doers and thinkers? But to think that I was the drainer and the watcher, like, kind of hurt. And it has to hurt for there to be change, right? It has to not feel good for you to want to take a different action. So that action has actually given me the courage to step into making the tough decisions in the organization. Yes, someone's in all of these areas, but they're not in these areas. And I brought up these areas with them. Like, hey, I need you to be on the team meetings. Hey, I need you to start mentoring some of the people below you, right? And they don't want to take those actions. And yes, it's great that they can do what they're currently doing really great. But, like, big picture, those are the actions that are not going to help us get to where we want to go, because we can't duplicate ourselves. We can't multiply in the organization if we have people that are only focused about themselves. And that's where having the courage to make those tough decisions in the organization, which means removing people from the organization when they no longer are a good fit for the organization, has to be done. And we did a lot of that in 2022, and 2023 is just starting out, and we're giving everybody a fair opportunity, a fair chance. But there's going to be some more tough decisions that need to be made in 2023 if things don't get corrected. And yes, it's always fun to talk about targets and goals, and I love talking about those things. But having these understandings and having the courage to make these tough decisions is so important in business, because it's great to be an organization that can hire and can bring on new team members and can have this great culture. But it starts to affect the culture when we have these 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 bad apples that we don't have the courage to remove from the organization, that we don't have the courage to stand up to and hold accountable fully to what's required in the organization. And I am proud that I'm becoming the leader that can now see that. And everything is always, like my mentor Brandon Dawson always says, is intellectual awareness and intellectual curiosity is what's going to help you get to the next level. And I became aware of this thing, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm seeing it so much more clearly. I like this stuff. It seems so easy to understand now, and that's how everything is, right? Like once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. But in the moment, and before it actually became so easy to see, it wasn't easy to see. So I know that that awareness, once that my awareness increases, I know that like there's something new, that good that's going to happen for the organization. And this is that new good that's happening for the organization, because at the end of the day, I'd rather know at 20 million that this person can't handle the pressure than to get to 50 million. They have all this other responsibility and then they blow out. When all of the signs were there, but my awareness wasn't, or my intellectual curiosity and understanding people and behaviors better wasn't there. So I'm glad this thought process and this learning is happening now. I look forward to continuing to developing it and continuing to growing in it, because the highest price we all pay is ignorance, and ignorance is not knowing. Ignorance is not having an understanding of something, and we think we know, but we don't know, and we get hurt because we didn't know. So I'm excited to keep growing and keep learning and continuing to develop as a leader. And one of those things to develop as a leader is you got to make the tough decision in the organization, or you are becoming the drainer in the organization. So let's go out there and continue to build our legacy. Let's roll.